Hi, and welcome to the show Podium, and we're on session 045. And this week we're going to have the second part of the series that we're having right now with Rudi Kennard. And I just want to introduce you to him before we go over to a part of that interview. While training as a track and field athlete, Rudi attained a sports science honours degree and went on to become a personal trainer and fitness coach. It was around this time that Rudi appeared as a contestant on the TV show Gladiators, which led him to study many mental performance strategies like NLP, clinical hypnosis, and mindfulness. 14 years ago, Rudi came across an understanding of the nature of experience termed the 3 principles, and has since then given training over a dozen countries, spoken at international conferences, on the radio, and served many populations from corporate executives to children and jail inmates. So as an introduction, I just want to give you a little preamble as to where we are in the interview. And I ask Rudi a question around control, and I've just left it in, but it's a beautiful example of I knew what it was that I wanted to point to in terms of the feeling, but I didn't have the words to articulate it very well. And Rudi does an amazing job. But if I had the question again, I think it would be more like, should we even be bothered with trying to chase a particular state of mind? So let's just go straight over to the interview now. How much control do we have as human beings on the performances of our bodies and therefore the content of our minds? And what I'm hearing you say, and what I've been looking at a lot as well recently, is that our performance is a byproduct of the state of mind we're in, but that it's neutral. So experiences are just experiences. And when we look at how they're made, we don't need to go chasing particular states of mind in order to get those performances. It happens anyway. I probably wasn't that clear then, but
it's easy for me to tell stories. I like this. So, for instance, when was this? This is like, maybe 15 years ago, I did a hike up to Everest Base Camp. And it was beautiful. I mean, if anyone's ever been to the Himalayas, it's just, it's stunning. But I was reading this book about Gandhi at the time, and Gandhi, he wanted basically free India from these evil colonialist English people. And so what he did, he got so inspired, he walked from village to village and just spoke to people. Now, Gandhi was kind of, I guess, towards the end of the Middle Age when he started to do this. And India is a big country, but he walked all over India, and sometimes he would walk for days. He just walk non-stop before he got to another village and would talk. And I thought to myself, well, if Gandhi can do it, surely all of us can do it, because we're all built the same. We all have the same, the same spiritual essence, if you will. So I put it to the test, and I remember I got to base camp, and in the morning I hiked up this small mountain called Kalapatar, where you look down on base camp. Then you walk back to this place called Namche Bazaar. Now, it's a 2.5 day hike if you set off really early in the morning, do all of that. But I didn't set off until kind of midday. So I only had so much daylight. And the funny thing is spontaneously this zone state happened where I was almost running. I was running and running and running for hours and hours and hours. And I made it back. It was starting to get dark, but this 2.5 day journey I did in maybe 6 hours. And believe me, I was an explosive athlete. I was fantastic at sprinting and jumping and running. I was useless at an endurance. So this is kind of outside of my physical capabilities. But I got to about half an hour of my destination. And as I was running, I was like, this is easy. This is effortless. This is just, I don't feel pain. I'm not out of breath, although I was breathing heavy. And I stopped to take a photo. And all of a sudden, my state of mind kind of changed. And then my half an hour back to Namche Bazaar took 2 hours because I was in so much pain. So I made it, but that's an example that if I didn't have the physical skills, I couldn't have done that flow state or not. Absolutely. But the mind the mind and body is one entity in a sense, but the mind has an enormous power for the body to excel. So I guess when we talk about the mind and its potential, again, that's just like a story to show that I spontaneously fell into a flow state of mind, and I really had very, very little on my mind. Peak performance has nothing to do with overthinking. It has everything to do with less thinking. And I think an implication or side effect of this understanding is you have a lot less thinking about what's going on in your head. And one more thing, the trouble that I had on Gladiators was I thought that if I was stressed and anxious, that was going to be debilitative to my performance. So guess what happened? I was stressed and anxious, so I had a whole bunch of thinking telling me not to be, I shouldn't be, this is really bad for me, I need to stop doing it, I need to get out of it, it's going to affect my performance. And so guess what happened? That happened. And so if I went back in time with my understanding now, I could well feel anxious. I mean, I had Ulrika Johnson pushing a microphone in my head and these cameras and the crowd kind of cheering. But you know what? It's actually okay to be anxious, and it's just okay to be anxious. Just be anxious and do it anyway. The problem isn't the anxiety. The problem is believing that it's bad for you. The problem is the whole weight of thinking we add to that thinking. Without that happening, the anxiety lifts really quickly because it's like a beach ball on top of the water. Left alone, the beach ball just bobs up and down on its own accord. But we depress it. We press more thinking to that original thinking, pressing it down in the water. But when that's not happening, when we take our hands off the beach ball, naturally it pops back up to the surface. Now, we're not the ones making the beach ball pop up. It's automatic. It just does that on its own accord. We're the ones depressing it with a whole bunch of thinking. So insightfully realizing the nature of thought and experience allows all experience to just be as it is, and it flows through. And one thing my first teacher said, Sydney Banks, is if the only thing people realize is not to be frightened of their experience, that alone would change the world.
That's beautiful. Wow, what a beautiful story from Rudi. And I'm so grateful to him. That's just lovely. And if you'd like to get hold of Rudi, you can do via his website on www.innatewellbeing.co.uk. And if you'd like to contact myself, you can do that on denise.holland@class-performance.com, or you can look at my website on www.class-performance.com. I'm delighted to announce that all of the previous podcast shows are now on the website, and we have a brand new tab called podcasts. So if there is a particular subject that you think, wow, how does the 3 principles understanding relate to this particular form, then just pop over to the website, and we have 45 shows with all different speakers. So I'm sure you will find something interesting and fascinating amongst those shows. In the meantime, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in, and I look forward to learning and sharing with you again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.